Hi everyone, this week you are going to work on writing the final product of your Shakespeare Scene review. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what that final product is going to look like. We've been kind of talking and doing the planning for the last week or week and a half or so. The final piece, I'll ask that you in a Microsoft Word document. If you need to do it another way, just reach out and let me know. But I'm going to ask that it's 250 words, which is about a full page of writing. And you're going to have 4 different parts going on there. You're welcome to go over that length. I think with having these 4 parts, you're going to get there pretty easily. But you're going to have an opening, and I try to keep the requirements in each kind of loose. You can go whichever direction you want with these. These are just suggestions of what you should do. But the opening gives some background. It can be about the movie or the play overall. It can be about the 2 different movies you're looking at. You can give opinions in there. You can kind of just talk about the play overall, or really anything you feel like is worth mentioning in there. And then the next 2 parts are going to be a critique of the first movie scene you chose and the second movie scene you chose. If you want to try to weave them together in some way and do like positives in one and negatives in the other, you can kind of organize that how you want, but I thought splitting up between first and second was the easiest way. And then some kind of closing that gives, whether it's a score or a final review or thought on it, or if you compare and contrast the scenes or the movies in some way. So that's a good breakdown of what it should look like. So today, we're going to try to do the first part of that writing. So it'll be due on Friday, and I know that this week we have MAPS testing, so you kind of have the week to work on it around your MAPS testing. But for today's part, we'll try to do the beginning together. With the beginning, I want to go back to some of that writing we did earlier in the year with the narrative. We're writing multiple times. We're thinking about what works best and trying out different things. So we're going to do that with our intro. With the intro, there's kind of 2 ways you can go with it. And if you've been looking at movie reviews, I would again encourage you to look at some more today, and I'll push you off to do that a little bit. But a lot of times, movie reviews will kind of go one of 2 ways. Either they'll give an intro that isn't too emotionally written, or one with a lot of emotion. So I'm going to have you try both of those and see which one works out better for you. So I'm going to give you an example of both, one without emotion and then one with emotion. So I'm going to stick with the Star Wars series, which we looked at a little bit last week. So this is a part of one that doesn't use too much emotion. They just try to give a depiction of like, how do other people feel about it, not necessarily putting their emotion in it. In 2017, Lucasfilm released what can now arguably be called the most polarizing chapter in the Star Wars franchise. There are many that absolutely love Rian Johnson's Star Wars: The Last Jedi, particularly for the way it subverts expectations and takes the larger story in fascinating, unexpected directions, while others share contrasting opinions because they don't feel it fits in the box they see defining what Star Wars is. The debate has raged for 24 months, and a huge part of the conversation has been in regard to how the particular narrative choices would impact the coming sequel, J.J. Abrams' Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So you can see they're just kind of like telling you this is how other people feel about it, these are the sides, this is the conversation that's happening. Not a lot of emotion there. When you write yours, that may be the one that works better. Now let's take a look at one with emotion. To me, the impression I'm getting is that critics have overreacted to Rise of Skywalker's flaws, just like fans overreacted to the problems with The Last Jedi. Neither of these films are even close to the worst Star Wars film in the grand list. Critics are insane to say that Rise of Skywalker is worse than movies like Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace, so much so that it almost seems spiteful to try and make that case. And the same goes for The Last Jedi haters, who would rate it as the worst Star Wars movie in history by a 13% margin under the worst prequel, Attack of the Clones. Just absolutely no way. So hopefully you can hear the emotion coming through a little bit stronger in that, and it's totally up to you which way you end up choosing, but I'm going to have you try both out. One where you have some of that emotion going on, and you can see some of the terms they use in there to get that emotion going. You're going to try to mimic that a little bit in yours. So after you tried out some of the intros, we're going to play around with titles a little bit, and if you remember way back towards the beginning of the year, again when we were doing narrative, we did some work with titles. Titles require a lot of tries to get your best one, so usually the first title you write is not going to be your best work. So we're, again, just like the intro, going to play around with a couple different ones. So first I'm going to send you out to find some titles. So just search some movie reviews. It can be for the same movie, it can be for different movies, but I'm going to ask you to pull at least 3 and then copy them into today's assignments. But decide which one you like best. Think about what is making a good movie title, and I'll talk about some of those things in a second. You may want to consider this as you're choosing what are some movie titles you're going to look at. But when we talked about movie titles earlier in the year, We kind of said there's a couple different ways that you can choose them. There's a couple different ways you can write them. So you can decide what the focus of your essay is going to be and then write the argument in a sentence. That definitely works. I think you'll see a lot of that as you're pulling titles for movie reviews. You can copy a specific line from your essay, so you may not have that yet if you're not done with it. So you might pull in from the first paragraph, or that might not be the strategy for you right now. You can create a question that's related to the essay. You can pick an image from the essay, something you kind of want them to see. It can be like something specific from the scene. Writing a title begin with on, and way earlier in the year, if you guys remember Billy Weaver, on the obliviousness of Billy Weaver. And then use a common phrase that applies to your essay, like a dime a dozen murderous landladies. And then you can also consider the length. You can write a 1-word, 2-word, 3-word, 4-word, 5-word, and see what those short titles do for you. So what I'll ask you to do for your essay or your movie review is to create 3 different titles and see which one works best for your piece.